Since kindergarten, you've been studying to become a reader, a mathematician, and a scientist. All of these subjects will be important when you graduate from high school, but there are other skills that are just as important as you continue your education or start your career. People who can think critically, problem solve, and communicate with others are in high demand by colleges, universities, and employers. You're about to meet people who do many different things and interesting jobs. They're going to share how critical thinking, problem solving, and communication skills help them pursue and achieve their career goals, and how they continue to use these skills day in and day out in their work. I hope these professionals inspire you to explore different career options and plan for your next steps after graduation.
First and foremost, it's important for me to accept that the work that I'm doing for someone else is really, really important. And I need to be able to feel like sharp and ready. And so a lot of times the critical thinking piece is a form of self-reflection, right? If I've had a bad day and a rough drive to work and I'm irritated at people, I need to be able to separate that. And I need to be able to give of my whole self in a way where those skills that I've gone to school for, gone to more school for, right, and practiced in a bunch of different areas professionally can really be the thing that helps some folks.
And then, yeah, critical thinking is all the time for me. I have to think of what to paint. That varies a lot based on what the parameters of the project are and where it's happening and why it's happening and who's sponsoring it. Like all of the details that go into creating any piece of artwork or really executing any project. I have to be able to really like look at those from a zoomed out perspective and understand what the impacts are going to be and how people are going to receive the work. And if I'm not able to do that, then I find that the work doesn't resonate. People don't care about it. It doesn't have longevity. So I mean, critical thinking is like, it's the key to giving the work that I'm creating a lifespan beyond me or beyond my time with the project. And that to me is one of the most important parts of being an artist, I think.
Just being an adult and having to navigate the world, maybe you're going to experience things that you've never had to deal with before, and you really need to be able to sit and think about, well, what are the options? What are the best practices for this? And how can I navigate this big life event or this big issue that I've never come across before? And so it's really important to be able to not just be like, oh, I have no clue what to do, but to be able to like jump right in there and be like, well, I could try this, this, and that. So it's super crucial even outside of your job.
My entire profession has been about writing and communicating. And so these are most certainly, especially as it comes to writing, really important. But the part of critical thinking and problem solving as a journalist, as a young journalist, working in South Los Angeles and in California, right after the civil unrest in the early 90s, I had to make the decision as a person of color going into communities of color. And I was working for the Los Angeles Times at the time. And so I'm working for an institution that had a long history of ignoring these communities. And I went in making assumptions as a person of color that these communities were going to be open to talking to me. And it was a real process that I had to go through once I learned that that's not the case. So there's a lot of critical thinking that goes into that, right? How do I engage with this person? What does it mean to build trust with somebody? All of those things that I think even in our social interactions that we take for granted, all of that is problem solving. All of that is critical thinking.
In terms of written communication, it's a skill that when I was younger, I definitely underestimated. And I was like, oh, I don't care. Who cares about writing or even reading? And now as an educator, I understand that sometimes a well-written sentence tells a lot, and developing that skill, I think it's important.
When you're owning and operating a small business, nothing goes right. So you kind of got to count on that. Say the night didn't go very well the night before and you have left with a lot of food left over. So you got to readjust and make a new menu and try to sell the food that you have. You have to problem solve on the spot. Thinking on your feet is absolutely the most important part of that job.
Any engineer will tell you that a big part of the job is taking something that doesn't work and make it work. Everything starts broken. If it wasn't broken, they wouldn't need an engineer. So that starts with a design, and you throw things down on paper, or you start daydreaming up an idea, and then you have to methodically use your critical thinking to see what doesn't work, what'll break, what won't work well, and then iterate and iterate and iterate until you get to a design that barely works. And then you start saying, well, what would make it work best? And then you iterate some more until you finally have a solution. And almost every task I do as a professional engineer falls into this category.
Being able to intertwine and communicate and think through your perspective is truly what makes you special. And the better you are at articulating that, the easier it is to get people to believe in a vision or something that you're advocating for or trying to get done.
Being able to write what I think and feel and want can be very fun. It can actually be a very important tool if I want to be sort of annoying. It can be a very important tool if I want to articulate my irritation. It can be a very important tool if I want to convince my boss that I deserve a raise. I have done all of those things through written communication.
You remember in The Wizard of Oz, right, where there's the wizard and he's this huge thing floating in the air and there's fire going to either side. And then Dorothy's little dog runs back behind and finds the little guy back there in the booth manipulating the levers. And he says through his microphone, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain." And I say to the students, our job is to pay attention to the man behind the curtain. Critical thinking is the art of paying attention to the man behind the curtain. And if you don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain, then you are the willing dupe of whoever it happens to be, political figures or people who want you to buy their stuff. Absolutely, a critical life skill is to be able to analyze messages, break them down, think about the motives of those who are making them, and then make your own informed choices on the basis of that.
The most important things I learned in college, after college, etc., was just how do you think about something outside the box or find new angles. And then once you kind of start problem solving, then communication becomes everything, because as you start to bring on a team, it's like, if communication gets lost, it doesn't matter how good you are at problem solving or critical thinking, because things are going to fall through the cracks.
Being young is great, but being young is hard. You are at a place where you're constantly trying to prove yourself. You're proving yourself as being, you're mature, you're able to handle responsibilities, you're getting into college, you're starting a new job. That's not easy. So cut yourself some slack.
I think my biggest piece of advice would be to try everything, and any kind of volunteer opportunity or summer internship that comes up, just take it. Anything you can do to be out and work with different types of people is going to help you be a more well-rounded individual.
As more and more of life gets automated, as more and more of life gets answered by the data that the external world provides you, the only net new thing that really makes you special is what's in your soul and how you articulate what's new and an original perspective.
Without friends and role models that I've had throughout the course of my career, I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I'm at. So you don't have to do everything by yourself. You don't have to be good at everything. And you don't really have to compete. You just have to improve and think critically about what you want.